dokie. Hi. Look I made some nice coffee in the car with my board. I love that. Wow. Holy Spirit. Thank you. Jesus. Thank you. Father. Thank you. The Lord showed me myself like a planet over a period of time. He developed that in my heart with great depth it would take all of my life and more to ever even begin to unpack the worlds that he's built up in there. And that's fine. Because it's impossible to unpack those worlds. They don't need to be. They just need to be. They just need to be. They don't need to. They do anything else than just exist. But today, so there's been the priority and the meditation and the gift and the conviction of him being present with me in the place where my heart thinks, to the point where I no longer feel alone within myself. And that being the most exciting place of consciousness, and that gets to be my operating. Oh, it's so good. He also showed me that birds don't have pockets, and that when we fly together, I don't have to carry the future or the past or analyze the repercussion of the flight path, but that he still builds with the flight path so beautifully. He created a deep value in my heart for not having pockets and him being with me in the deepest places. And then he reminded me that adoration of him inside of the revelation of Jesus, which is that he is all in all becomes the topic of adoration of him. And so the place of adoration is being presently present to his presence while being presently present. I think a lot of times I didn't realize that he was changing what my present circumstances were, transforming them by his presence. And so I was trying to abide in two places at once while he was giving me one place to abide and then transforming the place that I was in until I was present. And he was faithful to do that work while I was very scared. So I became convicted in that a light had shone, right? I had experienced something, is what I mean. I saw it, I bore witness, I have a testimony, I like John 3:11, you know, that I know, things that we know and things that we've seen. And so it's in that way that I experienced the value of the reality of him being with me, not needing to hold on to things. In that space, we had the revelation that he's not another. And in that way, you can begin to understand how righteousness can exist while you let go of things, because so many things we cling to for the sake of righteousness, but you can let go if you're not another. If you're not another from God, you can let go, and he's still got it, and in a much better way does he have it, and in a much more natural capacity can we exist. So the fact that I am not alone in the house of my soul, I'm not another from him, and in that way I don't need to have pockets. I can simply adore him as he re-illuminates all of existence in the originally intended light. I can adore him. And in these worlds, he was showing me, parts of myself that he's begun to charter and explain in the context of creation and his ways and the way he made existence and the way he holds it together inside of dependence on him, union with him. He started to charter me out, and while I started to, in some measure, get nervous or stressed here and there by the revelation and the reality, and trying to steward things that were far beyond my capacity to manipulate. Yet I operate like a swallow in the wind. He started to show me that my life was kind of like a tree. And he started showing me this with roots. Really wanted me to see how roots worked, how faith worked. How the treasuring and expansion around his promises and his word worked. He wanted me to value deep roots beyond the expression of the surface. He wanted me to see that the surface was just that. It was an expression of the roots which were unseen. He wanted me to see how the roots could be at rest even when the surface would be in chaos. He wanted me to see how you could plow a field, yet the root systems are going stronger and stronger. He wanted me to see that things can be strengthened in a place you don't see, and that strength is the most important thing. Then he started showing me about the way he exalts people, like a tree growing tall, like an oak of righteousness, and the shelter of a tree, the way that birds nest in their branches and rest in the shade, and the fruit that comes, and how the fruit ministers. And he began to show me truly how trees alter an environment and how they actually change the atmosphere underneath them. There's more moisture in the air. They protect the soil that it doesn't dry out from the scorching sun, but it can actually hold on to the processes of life and shade over those, and even shelter from wind and dampen wind. He started showing me about what happened above the roots, and that was me, a tree. And I started understanding my life through a tree, and I started understanding things of the spirit by the way things move in the soil. But it was so much deeper than just the soil. But the soil was very important and very helpful for me to begin to see clearly. At least to grow in the admiration of nature. In the conviction of what I'd seen and known personally, borne witness to in my heart. So then he did begin to teach me more about the heart. This place, he woke me up in the night. He spoke to me, invited me, entreated, and we reasoned together. In doing so, he began to heal my heart and show me the necessity for a listening heart, and he increasingly honed my prayer. But then he started teaching me, about the Spirit and the rest and the communion of the Spirit, and Alpa, and the way he spoke with Moses, and he started teaching me about the simple logic that my soul can't scrutinize my heart, and my heart can't scrutinize the Spirit, that it comes from there, that everything it has comes from there. So how can it begin to scrutinize what it doesn't yet know? How can the student scrutinize the teacher on a topic they haven't learned yet? And so I began to listen in a place of greater and greater dependent surrender, and the tantrums of my soul began to seem more and more like a child without a parent. I started to learn where the parents were. That's part of my testimony. Recently, he started showing me the world, and after teaching me about the soil, and after teaching me about trees, and after teaching me about water and rivers and oceans, and teaching me about air. You really have. You spent such tender care with me. And then he started reconciling these things in the last few days or weeks or something. I began to see myself as a planet, but I began to see the planet as an expression of him, and me as an expression of him, and my dwelling in the world, my dwelling in his heart, but the unification of the heart of man and the heart of God as a wedding. And me being in him and him being in me, and being a vine and branches in the cascade of reality, and my experience of it, beyond any right to speak of such lofty matters. I have an experience of them, as any human has the capacity to. And so then he showed me the fruits of my life, inventions, the peri and ma'alal, like a tree, and he showed me the kilya and the nefesh in the soil, and he showed me the leb in the dirt, and the ruach in the air, and the firmament in the space, and the great expanse. to see my human being in the picture of a planet. And then I remembered the gospel, and I remembered the message and the healing a bit. And there was the soil, right? My soil felt muddy. I asked the Lord, why does it all feel muddy? Why are there flashes of faces and disoriented feelings? Why is the soil muddy again? I knew it wasn't so much a demonic thing or anything like that. It was, why is the soil muddy? And He showed me, love is like water, which we've known for a while now. And it needs to pour out. You can't just have a bog. You can't just have the love pour in and create a wet place of activity and not pour out. The dirt becomes oversaturated and the roots have more than they need, and the activity of the soil actually becomes stagnant and crazy and putrid, and the roots begin to be rotting, not because of their exposure to water, but because of the exposure to hyperactivity of things growing in a bog. And the tree that could have lived if it was just straight up in water was murdered by ripping and tearing of busy moving pieces in that hyperactivity of mud. And the grasses began to die in the flood, and the water was murky and stirred, and you couldn't tell where your spirit was, you couldn't tell where your body was. It was just all topsy-turvy, and intuition for solving problems or entering into a place of peace became confusing, to say the least. Oh, wow, Lord. Holy. Okay. So then, he told me that it needed to flow out in streams. He showed me these video journals are like a stream, an expression, a place where a man can be refreshed by good, by the fruit of his mouth, and the issues of life can flow out from his heart. And as I think in my heart, I can see and become, and all of these elements of existence that can be expressed. It's become a great point of water being able to be released. But He's also inviting me into so many other ways, that the love of the heart, the ineffable things that are beyond what the soil can retain and beyond what the roots can absorb, yet there is so much excess. There must be overflow, and the overflow is an expression of praise and worship, and even groanings too deep for words. And music is so important, and artistic expression is so important, because you're expressing a reality that is greater than this reality can contain. And so the best you can do is to wield your life as an artistic expression, not a scientific expression, because a deterministic reality can't hold on to the probability of the nature of God inside of a place that is bigger than this place. Yet whatever sort of reality is inside of that quantum leap, gradient, beautiful gradient. So we have the soil, and then the soil is at rest. But we find that the question is healthy soil, not so much healthy trees. And a healthy soil makes a healthy tree. As a man thinks in his heart, so he is. And make a tree good, and its fruit will be good also. But it seems that as a man thinks in his heart, so he is, and that we guard our heart with all diligence, from it flow the issues of life. And healthy soil makes healthy trees, and that we're being transformed by the renewing of our mind, not the behavior modification of our works. But he did, he showed me, like what does a plant need? A little plant needs Orpana Malache, there's Anav Melkosh. In the light of the king's face there is life, and his favor is like a cloud of refreshing spring rain. And there's the darkness and the rain of the cloud that nourishes the plant. And there's also the light of the king's face that nourishes the plant. But the roots can remain at rest. And Shuvnachat Yasha, Shakat Bitka Hayagabora. Shakat Bitka Hayagabora. In a tranquil, undisturbed, confident trust is the institution of your great strength. The roots can be at rest. In returning to rest is your salvation. In an undisturbed, tranquil confidence is the institution of your great and mighty strength. Like a tree with undisturbed roots, like an oak that grew tall and greatly affected its environment, as the oil of the anointed one poured down across his body and spread and smeared. And as we sought his face, he healed our land. As our minds were fixed on him, he kept us in perfect peace. And as we acknowledged him in all our ways, he directed our paths. As he washed the inside of the cup, the outside too was clean. And we cast our cares on him, and he cared for us. The oil flowed, healing and blessing our land like Obed-Edom housing the Ark of the Covenant, the same presence of God. Where Melchizedek is king, the kingdom is named Shalem, and where a king of righteousness is king, that kingdom is called peace. The increase of his government and of peace will know no end. My Prince of Peace, the one who is in the line of Melchizedek. And so, expressing the love, even in its chaotic torrents, stilled the muddy murkiness, and the release of passionate praise and love to the one who is an all-consuming fire. Bitter waters cannot quench this thirsty fire. The water drained, and the love moved, and the hope was ignited, because that's where the water flows in this faith, hope, and love abiding Paul entreats us into. And we see that hope is very necessary for the movement of water, the movement of love, so that your faith doesn't become a bog and be spoiled into a pool of fear. You need movement. Hope deferred makes the heart grow sick. And hope fulfilled is a tree of life. And so the water's drained, and the mud was clear, and the silt overtaken by leaves. Humble leaves, but leaves. And we returned back to what the plant needed in the resting roots, and then I wondered again. Soil with no water is dead, regardless of all the many things going on inside of it. Without water, it is dead. In my own mind, there are many things that I cannot control. I cannot dominate or dictate. And the more I think I can, the more I'm duped to the actual reality. I am designed to be dependent. In my soul, designed to be dependent. You see, I looked at the soil and I saw my soul, and I looked at the roots, I saw them healthy, and I wondered why it was healing again, right? It's the activity of the water. It's the activity of love in my soul at work within me. You see, God within me, Christ in us, the hope of glory. That's it right there. That's the whole deal. In my soil. And that's what I've been talking toward. Jesus, you are within me. And I don't control my thoughts. This is the way I can submit my thoughts. But it's you and being not another within me that gives me the hope of glory. Water in my soil, you are active within me. There's another man in the fire. You are active within me, and my worries can cease there because my scope of them is far less than yours. Yet you are active in a much greater capacity within me. Yet I am alive and one with the one who is life. How great a gift it is to feel small within yourself, yet vastly connected to yourself through the union of one you're not another from. So much more connected to everything. Unity in the spirit. Peh, ruach, ruach. A breath mixed into another breath. I am a swallow carried on the wind. I am small within you. Yet I am not another. Christ in me, the hope of glory, water in my soil. You're healing me. You're healing me. You're in me and you're healing me. And as I converse with you, as I dance with you, as I fly with you, as I rest with you, as I release it all into you and empty out my pockets, I am so much more involved in living by your tender touch. You can, when you're actually present, you can feel the wind on your face. But when you're caught up with as a bird with pockets, you're very much weighted down from being picked up by the wind. It's his still small voice. In the midst of earth, wind, and fire, it's his still small voice that he sets a table for me in the midst of my enemies. Yes, it's my Prince of Peace who crushes my enemies' heads under my own feet, which are his own feet, as I'm not another. In the body, as the peaceful oil flows down from the head, over the beard, down the robes. And now the mystery is Genesis 2:6, as I wonder that in those days it didn't rain, but a mist arose from the soil and watered the whole face of the ground. Jesus, you rise from me like a fragrance. After you anoint me with oil, the fragrance of your oil rises, and the atmosphere of heaven perfumes the environment, like resting under a tree. You could smell the beautiful scent of leaves, sweetness. What comprehensive sweetness that I could never describe, resting with you, Lord. And so my soul returns to that rest, and that is where I'll abide. I am not in charge, and I don't belong to me, and I submit myself to the one whose care I'm under as radically dependent, and I rest in his faithfulness. And as I do, I believe a mist rises once again, and I believe the prophecies are that it will now water the whole face of the earth. Come in, King of Glory. The Spirit and the bride say, come. Amen.